Hi, I'm David Preston, and today we're going to cook pizza like a bastard. Hit it! Welcome to another episode of Cook Like a Bastard. Today we are making America's favorite food, pizza. We're going to make a little pizza. We might even make a little calzone if we have time. Never done it before, but I found out I could make calzone once because I was making pizza. The thing fell over, flipped in two like that. Ended up with a little calzone. It was kind of tasty, kind of good. All right, so you can think about pizza and think about making pizza at home. And you could buy a pre-made crust, pre-made sauce, grated cheese, prepared ingredients. And all I can say there is, dude, a bastard doesn't cook that way. A bastard uses his head and uses some imagination and makes this an exciting and a good pizza. Because if you want pizza that sucks at home, you might as well go somewhere else and buy it because it can suck just as bad there. So here's the deal. We're going to start making some dough. We're going to whip together a quick sauce. We're going to make a couple pizzas as we get on. So the dough is really simple. You can either make by hand, but sometimes you like to use tools. I got the old professional 6000 HD KitchenAid here, which I'm going to use. And the first thing I need to do is get some water here. All right, well, I'm starting with 2 cups of water, and this water is exactly 110 degrees. Doesn't really need to be that exact. Somewhere between the 105 and 106 degrees will also work. So this is so the yeast decides that it does the yeast thing. Now when I buy my yeast, I do a lot of bread baking in the Bastard Studios here. So I buy my yeast kind of in large quantities. This is probably the scariest part of the whole pizza making thing for all of us because we have these little organisms in here, 2 tablespoons worth, and we got to make them grow and turn into something. So I'm putting 2 tablespoons of yeast into here, and I'm going to just whisk it up a little bit. And if this doesn't work, your pizza will just be a little flatter. Again, what's the worst thing that can happen? You go down the street and have average pizza somewhere else. So let's have a little fun. We're going to make some pizza dough and make some pizza. So I'm going to let this sit for a couple minutes while it does that stuff that yeast does. And I'm going to start mixing my ingredients for the flour. I'm going to start with for the dough. I'm going to start with 5 cups of flour. 5 cups of flour, which is fun to pour into this thing. And then on top of that, I'm going to put a little salt. Yeah, maybe, I don't know, a couple teaspoons worth. Or about that much. And then a little sugar in there. 2 teaspoons. Or about as much as you can get out of your little jar here. Because you may not think it's humid in the fall here in Minnesota where the Cook Like Bastard Studios are. But the sugar, it sure thinks that is. I'm going to put just a smidge more sugar in there. And then I'm looking at that and I think, it needs a little something. Well, I get some crunchy stuff here. I'm not even sure what it is. Some kind of wheat germ or wheat something or other. Put a handful there in it because, you do that, you think you're eating something good. Because if you can't eat good, you might as well eat like a bastard. And the best thing is when they happen together at the same time. So my yeast is starting to foam up here, which is good. I got all my ingredients in the mixer, waiting for the yeast to do the yeasting process, as we like to see here. So when you do your dough, I'm just going to give it a little pre-mix here, just to mix up the ingredients before I pour the water in. And do that on kind of a low, on 2-ish. Can't really go 2.5-ish because, well, we don't have that functionality. But 2.5-ish might actually be the best way to do it when you're doing your pre-mixing, but we're going to do it at 2. So you let our yeast bubble up just a little bit here, and you can see that it's doing the yeast thing, which has a real term. You can write in and tell me what that is. I can't remember what it is right now. So I'm going to pour this in. And the best thing if you can put a little bit on the counter too, because I had a little bit too much water in here. And slowly pour it in while it begins to mix. Because you don't want your dough to be too sticky. You don't want it to be too overworked. But you're going to end up with a little ball in here when you're done. So the dough is mixing away. And while the dough is going to do this, and it's going to do this for a few minutes, we're going to start talking a little bit about our sauce. And there are different things you can do with pizza sauce. You can start out and you can buy a jar of pizza sauce. Or on the other end, you can go out in your yard and pick some tomatoes and cook them down into sauce. Or you can use whole tomatoes or stewed tomatoes. What I'm going to do today, I'm going to start with a can of tomato sauce. I think it's the easiest way to do it because I don't have the time to cook down the tomatoes, but I can still play with the flavor. I want to deal with something that's really just more like pure sauce because I don't want any salt or anything else getting in the way that I want to make it. So I got my pan here on the stove, and I'm going to start putting a couple of my ingredients here. Before I season the pan, often when we do these things, we like to turn the pan on ahead of time and start cooking things. This time we're just going to start it off on just a low heat, so I'm building a base here. And I'm going to turn this on low heat. I'm checking the dough and I'm going to turn it up to 4 now to get it worked. Now you don't want to overwork the dough too much. You overwork the dough, you got to talk over it, and then you got tough pizza at the same time. So those are things you don't want to do. All right. So for the sauce, you want to take a few of these elements here and take a little salt and put it in here. And so put a monicum of salt into there. Glancing over at the pizza dough, and take some black pepper and put it on here. Glancing over the dough, needs just a little more moisture, so I'm going to go get a little more warm water and pour this into the dough. Take a little bit of sugar for my sauce. A little oregano, about that much oregano. A little dried basil. We use fresh basil later, but really the dry basil is what you want to use for the cooking. And then the dough is looking good. So we're going to keep these things kind of together here. And just mix this up just a little bit. I'm going to take out our dough. Got here in a nice ball of dough. I want to play with this just a little bit right now. This feels really good. You feel the texture on it, but not too sticky. And then what you want to do, you want to let this sit for about 45 minutes. So I'm going to put this in this bowl here and cover it with just a moist towel so it doesn't dry out. Another trick you might want to do right about now is take some olive oil and work it into the dough, because you can either put the olive oil in the dough while you are mixing it, or you can do it afterwards if you have a lot of extra time, because the olive oil and how it mixes with the dough is interesting in the mixer process, but it's fun to play with it, especially if you forgot to put it in originally. So we're just going to put the dough in here, the oil in here. And the nice thing about doing it this way is that the oil is going to be on the outside of the pizza dough. So I think that's good. I'm going to cover that up and put that aside while we start to work on our sauce just a little bit. So I got this, as I said, on a very low heat right now. And I'm going to, in a separate pan, I am going to just saute some onions and garlic and heat that up just a little bit. Put a little olive oil in there. Okay, we can continue to make the sauce here. I'm going to put a couple cloves of garlic in here. I'm just going to smash them. I'm going to chop them. And we're going to be sauteing these. We got a little frying pan here and a little olive oil. This is going to cook down a little bit so it doesn't have to be as fine. We put this in the frying pan. You surely don't want it too hot with the garlic. Now I got a relatively small onion. This is probably a smaller to medium-sized onion here. Again, this is going to be, you want this finely cut because this is going in a sauce. You don't want the sauce to be too chunky and having your tomatoes a little too coarse. Opposed to more of some of the other sauces we've made here in the studios, it doesn't matter. It's more of a bite. But I want a little more fine chopping of the onions. And put those in here with the garlic. My desire for smell-o-vision never ends. Take a look at how this guy's doing. This guy's doing a little too hot, so I'm going to put him on a different burner and move him up to this. And then I'm going to grate a little Parmesan in here. Not much, just a little bit. Helps to thicken it up and gives it a little more flavor. It just crumbles in. It's almost redundant to have to do that. These onions, they might get to your eyes a little bit, and that's okay because a bastard can cry when he cooks sometimes. Not that I'm a bastard. Let's get this bastard thing straight again. This is a technique of cooking. I've got letters saying, "Hey, bastard." Now, I don't even know who you're talking to. What we do here, we cook like a bastard. See, the term is like. If we were a bastard, we would just cook, right? I guess that's the way that thing works. So these things are sauteed. We're going to put them now into the sauce. This back here. Mix this whole thing together. Cover up. I'm going to put this back on the center burners. Set this up now. This needs to sit for a little bit and while it cooks. And while we're doing that, I want to talk a little bit about how we're cooking our pizza here. First thing you need to do, you need to turn your oven up as hot as that guy will go. Mine only goes up to 500, but that's where we're going to put it up to. And we want to heat this thing up. We want it hot. You want your pizza stone. I use this as my pizza stone. It's black. It's heavy. It heats up very nicely. And I'm going to try to put the calzone on this one because guy got to do what he got to do with the stuff he has. So I'm going to put these in the oven so they heat up. It's very important that these heat up with the oven. And that was loud in there. Hey, we're going to be back right after this. Well, we're back here. We've been cooking sauce. We've been letting dough rise. While the sauce was cooking, I had an opportunity to taste it. And to be honest, a little bit too much salt in it. And apparently, at least it's organic salt that is in that. So be careful. Read the ingredients on the can. Make sure that you're not doubling your salt recipe. The other thing I thought while I was cooking it that I think it needed that little something. And that little something is crushed red peppers. So I'm going to just take a few of these. Pop them into here, and then mix this in, and let that settle. I've actually turned the sauce off now, and I'm just going to let it cool. The nice thing about having sound is you heard that. All right, so our dough has been rising, and rising it has done. Holy smokes, look what it did, like magic. We have this huge thing of dough. You don't want to overwork it, but you're going to work it just a little bit. I'm going to break it into 2 units, one for the pizza, a little bit bigger, and a little bit smaller for the calzone. We're going to start with the pizza, and I'm going to make a nice ball. Work it just a little bit more. And there's a fine line between working it enough and too much, and you'll never really figure it out because sometimes, babe, pizza's just pure luck. All right, so I am going to roll out my pizza, my shape, on my pizza peel here. And I'm going to start by putting a little cornmeal on it. This helps from making it stick, from the dough sticking to the peel. So I'm going to work it with my hands a little bit. And I use a roller. Some people like to work the whole thing with their hands. I've turned into a roller guy because, again, sometimes a bastard, not that I'm a bastard, likes to use a tool to cook like one. So I'm going to roll this out. And you can see the addition of the little crunchy, whatever various wheat things I had in there. That was a brilliant little suggestion because it gave the pizza a little stuff. So if you got anything else in it, like bugs or anything, you say, oh, that was just one of the wheat things. You got a built-in excuse. So I'm going to make this, and your pizzas don't need to be round, although they look very impressive if they're round, that's for sure. So today we're cooking in the oven. I really prefer to cook it on a grill, but the thing about the Cook Like a Bastard Studios, we don't have our outdoor cans set up right. But maybe next season we'll have that going for us. So I'm just spreading this out, not too thick, not too thin. You need to have a little dam for the sauce. I guess that's what this is here, working around the outside. It also makes it very stylish too. Making sure you're free on your peel. That's good. Now I'm going to start by putting some sauce on here. Start in the middle and just work your way out. Not that complicated. And the thing is, you don't want too much sauce, but you want enough. And again, that's really the fine thing, really, the art of cooking, isn't it? It's not too much, like the salt, not too little. But you'll work through it. And again, doesn't work. You really want pizza? At least by Cook Like a Bastard Studios, Punch Pizza isn't that far away. So there's a lot of places I can get pizza just right in the neighborhood. So don't worry, have fun, because you're not cooking because you like to cook. You cook because you like to have fun, and you like to have fun while you're cooking, or something like that. You work that out. You write a letter. Tell me what the heck I was talking about when I said all those words that made no sense. So I just got the sauce covered right now, and I'm going to start now by laying some fresh basil, which you can just tear and lay over the pizza. And at this stage also, it's good to let the pizza dough rest a little bit before you put it into the oven. So we're going to take a little time here, and probably about 20 minutes after you roll it out before you actually put it in the oven. Crazy internet TV thing may make us do that a little quicker, but remember to let the pizza rest, because that's really kind of the difference between good dough and great dough. I remember as a kid, Mr. D's Pizza. I didn't even like pizza, but what I like to do, I like the sausage portion of it. My mom and dad, they'd get pizza, Mr. D's Pizza. I'd grab the sausage, and then I'd have something else. I've grown into pizza, because it is America's favorite food, pizza is. So we've topped it with this, and we also think about what else we want to top it with. I'm going to take some garlic here and slice this up finely. Yep, I'm going to use a knife to do it. And this is, we're not cutting it this way. We're cutting it very, very thinly. Because as you go, and one thing you got about thinking about while you're making your pizza, think about all the moisture you're adding. Always you're adding moisture to it, and moisture is bad. You got to figure out a way to control the moisture, because if you do this wrong, when you cook your pizza, you're going to have a little pool of water at the end of it because of tomatoes or whatever. So be aware of how much moisture you're adding to it. So I'm going to add just a little garlic, distributed here. Give it a little flavor, is it garlic. And then I'm going to take my cheese. I have little mozzarella right here. You know, those of you around Costco, this is great. I mean, it's good mozzarella. It's cheap and good, and it has all those wonderful Costco preservatives in it where something like this will last forever. You go down to the co-op, your mozzarella lasts for about 15 minutes. The Costco mozzarella, crap, I don't even know. That lasts as long as baking powder, as far as I can tell. So I'm taking this out here, and I'm cutting slices of it to put on top of the pizza before I put the remainder of the toppings on. Now, cut it thin because it's, again, you don't want it too thick. And concentrate while you're doing it, because this is really the big presentation part of the pizza, is how the cheese comes down. So make very nice slices of cheese. So I'm going to lay this over. You know, you estimate so at least you got a couple pieces of cheese per piece. And we need to cut a little more here, obviously. You could, if you want, use a grated mozzarella. Just don't tell anybody, okay? Because it doesn't look cool. It looks like your pizzeria-style pizza, but that's not the kind of pizza we cook here in the Cook Like the Bastard Studios. Alright, so just about 2 more pieces of cheese here. 3 more pieces of cheese. And that's good. Just kind of spread this out to make sure everything's going to get a little bit of cheese, and yet 1 more piece of cheese. I just can't stop, can I? You start putting mozzarella and you see a space, you think it's a puzzle. It's not a jigsaw puzzle, fans, it's just a pizza. It's going to be good, anything you do. Alright, here's a trick. Here's a trick. This is where things get tricky. I'm going to take a couple tomatoes here. Cut these things damn thin. This is where your moisture problems really come into play. I'm going to grab my tomato knife out of here. To help me with the thin cutting process. And actually, the other thing I'm going to do, I'm going to start draining them right away. So I'm going to grab a couple paper towels, and just a plate here.
Hello, I'm Firefighter Mike, and we do not recommend leaving flammable objects on your cooking surface.
And I hope you guys caught this at home, because yep, that was a cutting board catching on fire. Now we're cutting tomatoes, and we're cutting them very thinly. And you can see the moisture, you know, coming out of these, and that moisture is going to pull up and make your pizza look like a swimming pool. Swimming pools, pizzas, not good. And again, the tomatoes aren't good anymore. Do I have to go on another tomato tirade? Do you remember how good tomatoes used to be? And they're not anymore. More times than not, you're sitting there with a tomato that is not quite ripe, not quite as flavorful as you want. I mean, the benefit of what we're doing now, we're just cooking. We wrecked them. We had our little special tomatoes that we thought would grow, and then they would grow better and better and better. And we ended up just making cardboard. That ain't good chewing, folks. You're just chewing if you got those tomatoes, okay? So, I had 1 good tomato the entire summer. Maybe the winter ones that get shipped up from New Zealand are going to be the secret. Because that's what we're really looking for. The further your food comes away from you, the better it is. That's freshness from the garden. So I got my tomatoes there. And I'm going to pat these guys down a little bit more. Bring them over here. And really, you know, I periodically emphasize things. This is something I'm emphasizing here, is that you need to make sure that you've taken all the moisture out of the tomatoes that you can, because that's the failure point in pizza. And then you have to go down the hall and say, "Hon, let's go out for pizza." All right, so we've dab these on, and we're just throwing them on the pizza randomly as possible. And I think my final ingredient today is going to be anchovy hearts. I've taken some, again, just jarred anchovy hearts here, and I've rinsed them, and I've started to drain them, because this is another point of moisture that makes your product too wet and really not satisfying. So I have these guys here. I'm going to give them one last toweling. Then cut these things down so they're chunks, but thin enough that they'll cook, but retain their flavor too, and you can tell what they are. So you can really add a very nice and unique flavor to your pizza. You know you're just not making an average pizza. You know you're kind of cooking like a bastard. Again, around the tomatoes, over the tomatoes, by the tomatoes. And spread that on. All right, well, this is what we have. This is our before of the pizza. We're going to hope that it's loose and it slides onto the pizza stone nicely. We go over to the oven here. Sometimes you need a little help with a spatula. And then we'll see what it looks like. We're going to make some calzone in a moment. Welcome back. As I said, my first experience with calzone was an accident. I made my pizza too big, and it couldn't fit on my pizza stone, and I had to fold it over so it would fit. I said, cool, I can make calzone. So we're going to just see what it takes to throw some calzone together. Okay, put a little corn meal on the counter here. Quickly roll this out. I don't know if shape matters, but I'm looking at it. Looks like that's going to be a calzone. Grab some sauce. You do more sauce on the bottom side. We're going to make a margarita calzone here, so I'm just going to throw some fresh basil in here. I happen to have laying around from the last thing. And look at that, I got a couple of things of garlic here. Got a lot of flavor in the sauce. I'm going to take some cheese. Because as you can see, once you get going, the thing's a lot easier to make it happen. So this doesn't have to be as pretty. As a matter of fact, it won't be because it's all folded up. So kind of chop up your mozzarella in smaller pieces here. And I'm going to got a little tomato left here, I'm going to put that in. Again, moisture is a problem even on the inside, so make sure you drain your tomatoes. I think I need a little something. Maybe a couple olives. So I got just some standard green olives with pimentos in here. Just going to take a handful out, 4, maybe 6. Again, wipe these things off because again, moisture is your pizza. It's the worst enemy. And just mince these up. Distribute these on here. Now the calzonian process happens. I'm going to put a little more sauce on it. It's around here. Now we're going to fold this over. Make sure you seal it up. Kind of like a Juicy Lucy, only Italian style. There you go. You got yourself a calzone. I'm going to put it in the oven right now. So we've made a couple pizzas. The only thing we have left is to clean up the kitchen, and we're back here. We've been making pizza and calzone, and let's take a look at this beautiful pizza we ended up with here. I'm going to dress it off with just a little dry basil on top, and just a hint of oregano to really make it special. This is cooking pizza like a bastard, wasn't it? Look at the way that thing looks. And it smells darn good. Let's make a little room here, see if we can take out our calzone, which is finishing up right now. And I'll be if we didn't end up with a calzone also. Hey, it's been a great day here, cooking like a bastard. Next time, join us when we're making who knows what it's going to be. Maybe it'll be another Cook Like a Bastard by request. Till next time, you can either be cooking or you can be cooking like a bastard.
David, TV.